Hello, and welcome to my review series. In this video, we are reviewing Star Trek Picard Season 1, Episode 1, Remembrance. The season is already closed, and I have already heard several reviews from people I trust. However, based on other evidence and the opportunity to not be bound by the paywall, I am making an attempt to go over each of the episodes and evaluate the show with my own lens. Because of this being the start, I will give a few things to be taken as accepted. Number 1. Time has passed. People may have grown or changed. Systems and societies may have advanced or decayed. Connections are made. Regardless, any variations should be based on the original settings or characterizations with explainable reasoning providing connections. Number 2. I bear in mind a possible budget-limited setting or similar factors. Though I will attempt to not hold this particular production responsible for faults by limitations, I will consider them challenges to be overcome by a well-crafted story and setting. Number 3. I'm not going to start on the Mary Sue-ness of Dodge or any of the coming sisters yet, regardless of what I know already. We will start at the beginning. There is a case to build. Number 4. Dark Future. Several writers have placed cracks in the perceived perfection of the Federation and Starfleet. As an example, Section 31 was a thing in DS9, but an extreme deep cover, practically skeleton crew rogue op. Though Disco is fracked with that, following through there would show the developer's hand. Also, some select and occasional high-ranking or high-importance characters have gone off the reservation. Read here, gone dark, evil, mad, or similar. However, except in the JJ Universe's Into Darkness, this was not a Starfleet-wide issue. We'll have to see how this plays out. Star Trek, in all its forms, is Gene Roddenberry's vision of the future. It's an uplifting, challenging future, going into the universe with adventure, answering hard questions, and doing our best to leave the universe better, whether through failure or success. Star Trek Picard, Episode 1, Remembrance. The opening is a dream sequence, and it's nicely done. Member berries abound, my friends. Waking at Chateau Picard, he calls his dog. I could see him naming the dog Number 1. As older men place and hold things around them of comfort and reminders of the past, though that should be paid off with Riker later. Meeting Daj, meaning gift of God in Welsh apparently, and the first action set piece. She better have some transport inhibitor or this whole scene starts off on a faulty premise. After some characterization, figures beam in, kill her boyfriend, place a device on her, and start, reading her? They could beam her out, right? There could be mention of as much if they couldn't. Mining her for information about these others makes far more practical sense in controlled circumstances, and Romulans, jumping ahead here, have behaved this way in the past. They seem ill-prepared to knock her out given they know she's a synth. Even if the reading device on her could have shut her down, they set it and put the bag on, and then you get the deep bass time dilation note, and she's triggered. After all, knockout is a biological condition to knock the head, causing brain concussion, blood flow interruption, and subsequent unconsciousness. Not systemically similar in her situation. Also, I'm of the opinion that the bag over her head is so she does her kill-em-all thing blind. I am flagging this as a logical inconsistency by a badly formulated set piece in universe. Though we get first evidence of her humanity with the forehead cut, going against known synthetic android canon, and I'm calling the visions memories or programmed engrams for now. The opening sequence is a blatant tell for what I already heard of the conclusion. Floating polyhedrons I first took to be individual positronic elements become a whole array, a positronic net. Then a DNA-like strand forms. The system forms threads, neurons, vessels, then an iris, which resolves, then disappears, revealing a mechanism beneath. Finally, a sphere breaking up and pieces filling in Picard's face. Seems to me he was going synth all along. At least the music opening was symphonic, though not very Trek-ish. And it ended with a pleasant TNG cue. Home on the Chateau, if you will. JL, which I'm going to use now, genuinely befriended Romulans as in Nemesis, though I note the Romulan makeup, the forehead variation. The male aide does have some shading, but it's inadequate for continuity and may just be the actor's own details. The female is not marked, and others seem poorly followed later as well. So, we flag this as a logical inconsistency in the variety of a canon breach. Even so, JL's crotchety responses are character true. Picard would grade at being aided, supported, or told to take care of himself repeatedly, even with his friends. Now, journalistic media in Star Trek. It's possible. We've never seen it before, this is true. But Federation News Network? Yes, that's a dad joke, Ron. Here's the thing. Humanity has evolved beyond need. People are free to pursue mental and physical endeavors at will. Bettering oneself is a worldwide cultural norm. An adversarial media interview seems very out of place in this setting. Because of the scene, I think I coined a phrase that fit given the recent history in the DCEU, Snyder-esque storytelling. Now as to the interview's content. And I remember this one. A flammable airborne gaseous media in an atmosphere burning for years. And I will be censoring myself. Baloney! First strike. In a matter of hours, the planet-wide attack expends the whole planet's available fuel. This is a major flag of logical inconsistency by breaking believable science, a flaw in superscience or something to that effect. Now, forcing Picard to say Starfleet is no longer Starfleet. This is gonna need to be explained. And it will be, yes? Now, the interview is, of course, broadcast, and Daj sees it, so she goes to find him. She shows up on the chateau. After a bit of reticence by JL, she convinces him to listen. First, let me bring up how, in conversation, he says that Number 1 would warn JL if Daj was dangerous. Number 1 is incompetent. See the set piece above. Now, the conversation itself over tea with Daj is filled with dialogue that felt flaky to me, including that stranger to yourself line. I will give that this much. Seeing the full context, she suddenly behaves as never before, so she asks him if he knows the feeling, and he affirms such. Apparently he does, since he's been a long while since the Admiral was in command of anything. But this is a contextual read. It is pulling meaning out of what I'm seeing. Beyond that, though, he is Picard, but why is he saying these things? Why is he responding this way? These assumptions, these jumps, these leaps, and then trying to draw out the meaning of the necklace. He seems to be attempting to add gravitas to Daj by his efforts, with all these setups for knowing her and the necklace. I'm uncomfortable in the rather weak setup. At least these boxes will not remain mysteries long. Then there is the picture dream, connecting two differing pictures he received from Data, one he's always had at home, and then Dahj runs away to protect him. But now, I don't recall, did anyone else in their review mention the crosshatched effing STD badge in the archive and on Dahj's hologram computer access? I am faulting for the STD tie-in. Yes. Hell yes, that's a fault. Disco is trampled all over canon, over character, logical consistency, and adhered to modern political narratives, disregarding the history of the franchise. It's already started. The mom hologram that unlocks more of Dahj is a mystery box or two or more, but it turns her around and activates her more. Then JL said it, called her very special. He really likes this girl he's just discovered. Even Data referring to her via the picture in the archive as daughter. We know, historically, androids don't bleed red or heal with medical tools, so maybe she is special, but why is she a daughter? Why couldn't she just be adopted or something like that? Androids don't bleed red or heal with medical tools. Calling her special is a logic leap. Lol should have been referenced in this case. That would have at least reinforced that since there was one, the failure would not have precluded the existence of later producing others. Yana needs some help with her being so near and dear to JL. Data's closeness to the crew was advanced significantly in the movies, but this is odd behavior. So many assumptions without any reason but the pictures for JL to make these leaps. Then, intro action set piece 2 with the same no beam out problem. Transporters are huge obstacle eliminators. Writing must be employed to enable and disable their use or lack, especially in a scene where they are employed to significant effect. Her flesh and blood body is tremendously strong and fast. So it's augment tech? Another banned technology? This needs eventual answers. Then they should have done more effects work or angles to make me believe she was avoiding disruptor fire, especially the fast but still straight arrow run at the sniper on the stairs. So again, we're faulting for logical inconsistency via badly formulated set piece in universe. Then Picard observes the whole thing. He's a witness. They killed the boyfriend, but treat JL as inconsequential? Considering unknown units and spawning them as necessary, they seem to have had time and resources. And this guarantees practically that the easiest way to get Picard out of the way would be transporting him to a miscellaneous location far away. Why not? This is a significant plot hole as well. An unexplained lack of use of available resources. Especially when you create a new one, spitting the suicide juice. It's a wild thing, but it's acceptable, especially since it does completely deactivate Dahj, take her off the board. Via disruptor blast. Overloading disruptor wipes out Dahj completely. The thing is, now you have JL only a few more yards away, or meters if you prefer, cast back violently. And in the next scene, he's back home after his incident. What? Why there? Who found and brought him? No radiation burns or sickness? No concussion, bruises, or abrasions to head, upper back, and buttocks? He's an old man, even by 24th century standards. He should have been treated. Then there must be someone on the inside to screw with records, sensors, and visual feeds. There was a massive explosion of energy. There were people there. This had to be recorded or recordable. But it went away? Then there are more assumptions without basis in his dialogue. Late 24th century tech and opportunities could account for many things, but we seem to be skirting these explanations. So this one. Fault by multiple plot holes, unexplained time gap, unexplained translocation, inconsistent adherence to likely consequences. Well, here's the landing of the main Dodge logic leap. Let us define a new late 24th century tech thing. Fractal neuronic cloning. Now, I've seen this in reviews talking about they cloned a part of data. Well, they called it cloning. But it is explained. It's a technical process that Bruce Maddox developed. This requires data unwritten in previous Trek, so they went there. The writers took that and ran with it. Actually, Picard meeting with the Doctor, Dr. Agnes Girardi, it is the drummer from Scott Pilgrim, is written straightforward and hits several points needing explanation, just not as many as I'd hoped. Here's the buy-in, though. Data's positronic neural net consists of units called positronic neurons, then. The full buy-in is that each unit has a dense information sequence with redundant information patterned in tight, perhaps fractal arrangement. Each unit being not only redundant, but not dependent upon the whole, therefore being able to extrapolate data's whole memory, experiences, and programming from a single unit. The lack of dependency is curious, and the ability to extract the whole from a discorporated portion, even a single unit, is huge. But in a world of superlatticed FTL computers, pattern buffers transferring numerically massive amounts of information, and such a process being capable of splitting you into the good and bad sides of yourself with a little bit of orange ore, this is not as unrealistic as I thought first hearing. Still, as I said, very massive buy-in. The superpowered flesh and body, though, that's still an issue. On the way out of the episode, Daj's twin sister Soji, meaning General Administer in Japanese, not as poetic as a gift, I suppose, makes a Romulan friend. Now, Romulans were exposed to the Borg in Season 1 TNG. We'll have to find out about that cube that they're on later. Mystery box. Oh, and look at all of those J.J. Prime Kurtzman Trek lens flares off of the lights heading out. Discussion. This isn't Star Trek. Not yet, anyway. DS9 didn't feel like Star Trek in the beginning because of station's setting, but it grew out of that well. This is a miscellaneous TV action drama mystery set in a Star Trek universe with similar, somewhat recognizable characters. Brent Spiner was excellent and spot on in the dream sequences, even with the makeup difficulty to hide his age. The writing in general needs some buff and polish, and a dearth of filling out. Stewart moves in and out of his Picard character, though at least in this episode I can attribute it to his age in character. And it is difficult to see him as this man, especially at the start of the second set piece, showing truly his age. Generally, the assembly is a fine, watchable bit of contemporary video entertainment. Effects, dressing, and decoration are pretty good, but thin sometimes, and sometimes in canonical error. The camera is consistently floating in certain frames. This could be in frenetic action when fast, but these cases are when it's set slow and it's unsettling. Often when the subject matter, spoken or represented in the frame, doesn't carry through with this narrative. Then things like the Borg cube at the end, although that is a kind of cliffhanger, and the way this is mostly written, I feel the mystery box is wrapped and set, some of which very likely never to be sufficiently opened. We will continue with episode 2. Thank you for watching, especially of getting this far. Peace and long life. Be excellent to each other. Hail and party on.